So, good morning. So we're now starting Shin Yud Ches, the famous Shin Yud Ches, Din HaMavashel B'Shabbos, the Din of Bishul. We're coming up to two of the, when I ever teach Hilchas Shabbos in school, the two melachas which are most relevant nowadays and which are most prevalent in our homes on a week-to-week basis are Bishul and Boire. So they're the next two simonim coming up. So really important and relevant stuff heading our way. So this is a very famous opening to Shin Yud Ches, very important halachas. Let's go. The Mechaber in Shin Yud Ches, Sif Aleph, is talking about a person cooked on Shabbos, or indeed did any other melacha on Shabbos, and he did it against halacha. What is the status of the item and the benefit, etc. So says the Mechaber, Hamavashel b'Shabbos, if someone cooks on Shabbos, or Oisha also achas misham melachos, or indeed does any other melacha, b'meizid, if he did it on purpose, with intention and on purpose, in violation of halacha, also lo la'olam. It is also for him to benefit forever. So he cooked something to eat, then he did it b'meizid on Shabbos, it's forbidden for him to benefit from that forever. But other people can benefit from it on Motzei Shabbos straight away. But if the fellow did it b'shoigeg, also boy bayom gam lacherim, then on Shabbos it's also even for other people. Erev mutar gam loy miyad, and on Motzei Shabbos it will be mutar even for him, certainly for other people, but even for him miyad straight away on Motzei Shabbos. So again, let's just summarize. If someone does a bishul or any other melacha on Shabbos, b'meizid, it is also for him forever, and for other people just for that Shabbos. It'll be mutter immediately after Shabbos. We'll see the Mishnah Berurah explains why there's no b'chdei sheyaseh. If, however, he did it b'shoigeg, then it will be also for him and for other people the whole day. But on Motzei Shabbos, it'll be mutter for everybody, even for him, on Motzei Shabbos if it was done b'shoigeg. And then the Ramah just finishes off, Vim Omar Leini Yehudi Lasus LeMelacha B'Shabbos Ein Le'el Siman Shin Zayin Se'if Chof. Okay. So let's say if he tells a non-Jewish person to do a melacha, then what the story is, we've dealt with that in Shin Zayin. Okay, let's take a look. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Aleph, Sif Kotan Aleph. Now, when it comes to bishul, it's not limited to food. Whether you cook food, or some sort of spices, or you heat water, even though you could drink it happily without bishul, if it was, you could drink the water cold, and so too, heating milk, you want to have a warm cup of milk, you could drink it cold. Nevertheless, there's been an improvement. You want the hot water, so that even though you could have drunk it cold, still that's considered a significant change when you cooked it. And so too, it doesn't necessarily only limit it to bishul, which is defined as cooking with water, but even if you bake it, hakol inyan echotu, da'afiyahu me'inyan bishul is part of the issa of bishul, elishafiyahu b'pasul bishul b'shari dvarim. The difference is that afiyah is involving bread and baking, and bishul involves other things. We're cooking through the medium of water. And in fact, there'll be other things as well, tzliya and tigun and things like that. And it's not only limited to food, like I said. If you melt metals, you can heat a metal until it gets sort of like a glowing. That is considered the tolda of bishul, because by heating it up, you're softening the material. That you could make a kli out of it. You're sort of softening something which is very hard. If you look at footnote 1, just the beginning line, but even if you heat some metal until it doesn't glow, but it just gets very warm, that the hand has to sort of retract from it. So even heating up material, metal and things like that, could be caught by the issa of bishul on Shabbos. Okay, back to the Mishnah Berurah. V'chein hamemases sadoinag, which is shaiva. If you melt wax on Shabbos, or it's a chaylev or fats, or it's a zefes, v'akoife, v'agofris, tar and kofen and sulfur, all these things. So bishul is not only applicable to food items; it could apply to non-food items too. If you cook earth, actually it becomes clay. Because before it becomes earthenware, it was misbashal bo titchel hakli. You're cooking the cement, the tits of the kli. You put a piece of wood into an oven so it dries out, and therefore it's going to dry out and all the moistness is going to come out. That could also be caught by bishul. The rule is whether you soften a hard material with fire, or you harden a soft material, that's the way the Rambam puts it in Perek Tes of Shabbos. You've got to be very careful not to put wood on an oven, because if by doing that after shkia, you have basically, people don't think about it. You put some wood on an oven or something which is very warm, and it dries out. And you do it on Shabbos. It's a chashash deraisa because it could be an isabishal. If you put meat on coals, if it's proper roasting, the small amounts of meat chayev. Even if that piece, that gregaris, that fig is from different points, together cumulatively it gives you that share. Even if it's not properly roasted, it's sort of Michael Ben Drusai, which we'll discuss when we'll get to that. Gam kein chayev, it's sort of semi-cooked, so then that also be chayev. But for it to qualify as roasted, it's got to have been done from both sides. If it's only on one side and not all the way through, or at least on the other side, then you're not going to be chayev im lav potter. Now all of the above is for deraisas. But in terms of Isuri D'Rabbanan, there are many more. When you're roasting that amount of food, that's a deraisa. Because the kamen chatzis also min Torah. So that's only in terms of bringing a carbon and things like that. But you could be over in Issa deraisa because chatzis also min Torah, even for a smaller amount, even a small amount that you've cooked. Okay. Fine. Sif cotton base. So we said hamavashel dafka b'Shabbos. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'chol sheish sofek plukta b'zeh, yihav b'chlal bishul elav. Whenever you've got a sofek, is this considered bishul or not? Or b'sham melochas ki agavno, or in other situations? The question in hand over here is there an issa of hana? Can I benefit from it? So whenever you've got a sofek, ein le'eser b'di'eved. Because the issa to get benefit from something on Shabbos, which was done in violation of melachas on Shabbos, is only itself a d'Rabbanan shekinsuhu, because Chazal made a knas, and therefore if there's a suffix of whether this is mevushal or not, this was a violation of issa bishul, since ultimately the knas is d'Rabbanan, and we make the sfeika d'Rabbanan lekula. That's the prima god in Beis Yud v'chein ze kol Magen Avram b'simen shin chav gimel sif kot nidalef v'ayin b'sif kot lamed beis v'tzorich in k'tzas. Now, interestingly, in footnote 8, he's got loads and loads and loads of footnotes on this. I've been through them, but I'm being quite selective. Otherwise, we could spend a week on this. But in footnote 8, he said, what is he saying over here? The real theme of this sif is a person who violates Shabbos, whether he does bishul on Shabbos, if he does it b'mezid, the mechaber says then he can't have it forever. He can never have that thing. So let's say he cooks, he bakes a cake or he cooks some chicken. The person who did it b'mezid can never have it, and other people can have it on Motzei Shabbos straight away. And if he does it b'shoigeg, so then it's also bo bayom for him and for other people. And on Motzei Shabbos, if it was done b'shoigeg, him and other people can have it. That's what the mechaber says.
What's the story? Is it like a punishment that you shouldn't be able to get?
We'll see. It's coming up in a second. We'll see that in a second. But we said that if it's a sofek, if it's considered bishul or not, then because it's a drabon, it's a knas, we're makel. However, if you look at footnote 8, I'm happy just to read it, just as one line, it's page 44 at the back of the book. It says, the Indian Meiser Shabbos Ben Hashmoshes, what if there was a Meiser Shabbos that happened Ben Hashmoshes? Now what is Ben Hashmoshes? Ben Hashmoshes is Sofik Yom Sofik Laila. So you'd have thought this is a good application of this halacha, that if there was a Sofik, then you should be Mekel. But that's not the halacha. But the Indian Meiser Shabbos Ben Hashmoshes, Kosev Le'el She'os Le'honos Ma'melocha, Afilu K'Sh'os B'Sheigeg. You can't benefit from it even if it was done B'Sheigeg, Kedin Melocha She'nasa B'Shabbos. So why? Uvatam Adov B'Ia Agonim Nisan Karelitz, She'nech Shevadov Kilu Nifsika Halacha L'Chumra Ve'en Ze Sofik. We take on that after Shkia, Ben Hashmoshes is also finished. And therefore, it's like we've pasken the halacha l'chumra, and this is not a sofik anymore. Post Shkia is not considered a sofik anymore. So very interesting. So if you're not sure about if the violation had happened, if it's a regular sofik, then you can be mekel. But if it's a sofik in Ben Hashmoshes, that's not considered a sofik in a draban. Okay, let's go weiter.
So what's an example of a regular?
Sofik, you should know. Well, let's finish off the sim and then we'll talk some examples, because you'll see this. I know that sometimes I get knocks on the door on Shabbos with questions on Hilchah Shabbos. I always seem to be turning back. Not very often. I'm turning back to Shinur Chesiv Aleph. You'll see why in a second. Achas Misham Melachas. Now, so he violated one of the melachas, Sivkot and Gimel. V'imi melacha d'Rabbanon, if he violated the Rabbanon, I'm be'agra sheherich lechiach to lekula alma im asa isa b'shegeg ein lesa b'di'ever lehonas v'mena. Now that is a very short but very important line, right? That if we're talking about a melacha d'Rabbanon and it was b'shegeg, then ein lesa b'di'ever lehonas v'mena. You don't have to answer it, right? So that's a very important line, because a lot of Hilchah Shabbos is Yisur Drabanan. Yeah. So a lot of Bishul on Shabbos, we'll see. Sometimes it's Deraisa, sometimes it's Drabanan. But many of the times, for example, we've done Hatmona and Chazor and things like that. And if it was done b'sheigeg, so the Gon says Ein Larsa b'di'evet. So that's an important thing to.
Not knowing is b'sheigeg.
We're going to come to that in a second. All good. We're going to come to all that in a second. So let's carry on. So again, Hamavashal b'Shabbos. B'mezid, we said also loy la'olam. So someone does a bishul on Shabbos, or indeed any other malacha on Shabbos b'mezid, so it's also for him forever. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot and Dalet la'olam lehenas b'malacha to konsur rabbanon. This is what we were just asking Eli, because Chazal penalized him. When we call makom mutal lehenas midom meha shel hamalacha, but he can benefit from the money from this malacha. For example, let's say he wants to sell the cake that he baked, then he can get benefit from that cake. It's just that he can't eat it. Amazing. So not only that, but even the pot he used to cook, he can't be used because it's got blias of things which are also. But if he cooked it for a healthy person, but if he cooked it for a chayla, then muteres hakadera, the kadera is okay, because it wasn't done be'issa. If I'm not mistaken from memory, in Shinchav Ches, there is a stir in the Mishnah Berurah, because I think he says in Shinchav Ches, which is Hilchas Refuah, that the kadera is osa. And I think the answers the poskim give to reconcile that Mishnah Berurah is that the Mishnah Berurah was not only written by the Chavetz Chaim, his son-in-law and I think others also contributed and helped, and and sometimes they didn't always agree on things, and sometimes he didn't change it if the other opinion was okay, was accepted, and they kept it in. That's what I've heard once. Okay, Sif Cotton Hay. Mutal Shabbos Miyad. So again, a guy cooks on Shabbos for Mezid, then he can never have it, and other people can't have it on Shabbos, but they can have it on Motzei Shabbos. So let's say Reuven, in violation of Shabbos, he came back from Shul on Shabbos morning and he fried, he fried some schnitzel for his friend Shimon. So Reuven can never have that schnitzel, and Shimon can have it on Motzei Shabbos, even though Reuven fried the schnitzel for him. Still, even for him it's allowed. Now, because we don't have to wait which is normally the case, which we were familiar with. Why not? Because we only wait Chedesh Yaseh b'melacha nasa l'de'en Yehudi b'shvil Yisrael. The whole concept of Chedesh Yaseh is when a non-Jewish person cooks for Yisrael. And why do they say b'Chedesh Yaseh? Mishum dekal be'enov isud amir la'ovid gilulim. Because sometimes, sadly, amir la'akum we're quite flippant with it. V'yovel asas kain pamacheres. And because we're a bit lax with Hilchos Amir La'akum, the temptation is I tell my home help to do me a favor, bake a cake, and I know I shouldn't really be telling you this, but everyone agrees that you can have it on Motzei Shabbos. So we penalize him. We say, well, listen, it took an hour to bake the cake. You got to wait an hour till Motzei Shabbos. But that's only in a situation where you might be lax and tell them on Shabbos. But to tell another Jew to do an Issa, we're not worried that if you eat it straight away on Motzei Shabbos, if Shimon has that schnitzel on Motzei Shabbos, that we're not worried that maybe he's going to come and tell his Reuven to fry it for him from next week. We're not going to tell another Jew to do an Issa d'oraisa. But if, however, it was done for Yisrael intentionally, okay. And furthermore, the Reuven's not going to listen to him. Why should I do an Issa for you? Now, okay, let's just stop there for a second. In footnote 15, is it 15? Yeah, footnote 15, there's a very interesting thing. Let me just find, this is page 45. Is it 45? Yeah. Yeah, now he says some interesting things. So, B'nei Beis Hasmuch al Moshulchanei. So, people, what if he cooks it for Reuven? He cooks it for himself. So, B'nei Beis Hasmuch al Moshulchanei, Kotz Vadas Torah B'Shem Haradvaz, Shedinam Kedinam Mevashel Atzmai. So let's say, for example, a woman on Shabbos, she says, "Oh, enough! There's no cake around on Shabbos. How can you have Shabbos without cake? I don't care. I'm going out and baking this cake." So, according to the Mechaba, it's a mvasha b'Shabbos v'mezid oslo la'olam. They can never have that cake. But not only that, the Bnei Beis are also included in it. So you can actually define loy quite broadly. According to this Radvaz, Bnei Beis hasmuchim al shulchanoi. The people who are soimach on the person who violated this at their shulchan, because of das Torah, also lohem lehonas me'amaichel la'olam im bishul oise balabayis b'mezid v'chein kos v'kavachayim. Now, in the next, skip a paragraph. Yehudim mavashnim acholim b'Shabbos b'misadav v'eis charoshes moichin reson. Now, what about if you've got a restaurant? They cook food. They're open on Shabbos. You can get this sometimes. We're kosher, but we're open on Shabbos, right? So what happens if they cook food on Shabbos, or a factory which produces food on Shabbos? So what about that? Because they're doing it, how do you deal with that? Because they're doing it for you. Because the Ksaf Sefer writes, she also liknes samachal mehem, meshetama het lefnishin is bashal b'shvula, very geshmak svara. Because the whole svara of you having it on Motzei Shabbos is because you're not going to tell them to do it. But because we're not worried the next Shabbos you're going to tell them to do it. But they're selling it. But sure, the Chachamim would penalize them. So therefore, that svara doesn't apply. Etc. So, however, if you look at the next paragraph, he quotes the Machzeh Avram. I don't know what that is. He quotes the Machzeh Avram. It's only the regulars that would be osa. Because they're doing it for them, it's as if I've commanded them to do it. If I'm just passing through and I just buy it, then it'll be different. So there's a lot of discussion about that.
Printing on Shabbos.
So I missed out that paragraph. If you look at the second paragraph of 15, he goes, "V'lishmoa l'telfon b'motzei Shabbos ha'hidois shenerchu b'Shabbos mezid." You listen to the news which was put together by Jewish people on Shabbos b'mezid, Kagain, or whatever, or the weather news or whatever. So some people will say that's also. Yeah, so you got to be careful. Now let's just carry on. We're up to Im Hoya. We're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom in the Mishnah Berurah. Im Hoya b'motzei Shabbos Yontov. Now, what if? So we said if the guy cooks on Shabbos, then it's also for him forever, b'mezid, and other people can have it on Motzei Shabbos. But what if Motzei Shabbos is Yontov? Yes, if Imay Motzei Shabbos Yontav, Afilu Bishul Beheta, Bishul Shabbos L'Chayla. Even if he cooked Beheta, for example, he cooked for a Chayla, Mikol Mokum Osu Lebari Gam B'Yontav Rishon. Even you can't have it on the first day of Yontav on the Sunday. The Ein Shabbos Meichin Yontav, because you can't prepare on Shabbos for Yontav. So, and therefore, there's that as well, right?
That's a Durabon on there.
That could even be Deraisa. Shabbos for Yontav, yeah. Shabbos to Yontav could be Deraisa.
Yeah?
Yeah. Im Nisarev b'Shabbos, Shabbos Yontav Techol and things like that. That'll be a drabon. Im Nisarev b'Shabbos Osu Dovish and Spashal Mezim Acherim. Now, what if he got mixed up? What if, let's say, Reuven baked the schnitzel, go fry the schnitzel, and then he got mixed up with other schnitzel and things like that. So look at this. Im Nisarev b'Shabbos Osu Dovish and Spashal Mezim Acherim with others. Das Hamogen Avram de Enemis battle. Also b'Shabbos Lehonas Manim is there. Why? Listen to this Geshmak Svara. To Kivin the Motzei Shabbos Yemut Lacherim, because what's the halacha? He can't have it forever, but his friends can have it straight away on Motzei Shabbos, and therefore Mikri Dovashesh Matirin, and a Dovashesh Matirin ain't a bottle afil be'elef. Mashikos of Yeridea says Simon Kuf Beis Hipuch Zeh. Nitzchak Mogavorm Liyashre. He says the opposite there. So Mogavorm struggles to answer it. Fa'im bechavas yidos das shom shechelik olav v'chazil and vashe ba'atzma. But in acherim lukula amma mikri dova sheish matirin. Okay, now let's carry on. But that's all b'mezid. But if he does it b'sheigeg, so the rule is the mechaber says also bo b'yoyim gam lacherim. It'll be also for you and for others for the whole of Shabbos, or le'erev and the Motzei Shabbos, it'll be okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you've got involved with b'sheigeg, this is what you asked Yossi, shogag badin oy shachach, kol ze bichlal sheigegu. Either he forgets the halacha, or he just forgot it was Shabbos. Right? Now, then it's os. Then on the day b'sheigeg, on the day it's osa gam lacherim. Now, this few lines again is really critical. Hine beGemara, pligi beinyan sheigeg umezid. There is a famous machlekes regarding all of this, when a person cooked on Shabbos b'sheigeg umezid, between Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda. V'das hashulchan Orach v'das Rabbi Yehuda. What we've said until now is all the shit of Rabbi Yehuda. Shekein hiskimu harif harama v'hagoinim. However, v'hagra hiskim ve'ur l'shittas ha'taisus. However, the Gan paskins like Taisus. Interesting, the Ramah doesn't here, but the Gan, it goes like Taisus with Siatam. The Pasuk Reb Meir, that they paskin like Reb Meir. What does Reb Meir say? To b'mezid also bein loy bein lachem ad Motzei Shabbos. A different story, more lenient. To also, if a guy did it b'mezid, it's also for him and for other people into Motzei Shabbos, but he can have it on Motzei Shabbos. Or b'sheigeg muta gam loy miyad, but on sheigeg it's muta straight away. Now so that's very important. So if sometimes you get bishul shilas coming up, they're knocking all different types of bishul shilas. This is a very important cloud to remember. When just to summarize, according to the Mechaber, he says that if a guy did it on b'mezid, cooked on Shabbos b'mezid, it's also forever. And for other people, they can have it Motzei Shabbos. If he did it b'sheigeg, Shabbos is also for him and for other people. Motzei Shabbos, it's mutzah for him and for other people. That is all according to Rabbi Yehuda, and that's the Rambam and the Rif. They all pass. That's who the Mechaber paskins like. But the Gaon says he goes like Taisus, who paskins like Reb Meir. What does Reb Meir say? The Reb Meir says that b'mezid it's also only on Shabbos. Bein lo bein lachem ad Motzei Shabbos. On Motzei Shabbos you can have it, no problem. And b'sheigeg, which is often the case when shilas come knocking on your door, or b'sheigeg muta gam lo miyad, that would be muta. B'mokam atzarech yishlis mechazeh b'bishul b'sheigeg. See, what does that mean? So if you look at very quickly at 1920, u'le'inyan chamin chulant kos v'agon shlomo zalman Orach she'ein zeh nechshav tzorech in zeh. That's not enough of tzorech. And so says Rabbi Yashiv. However, L'das Hagon Reb Chaim Kanievsky and Reb Nissen Karelitz Hakol Toli L'fnei Inyan V'Matzav V'al Chochem L'Achriya B'Shas Ma'aseh L'Kfiras Einov. So there's leeway. There's a bit of leeway. If the children came out, what happened in all these sort of situations. So to know that the Gan Paskins like Taisus, the according to Reb Meir, the B'Sheigeg, it's Muta Gam Miyad, is a very useful thing to know. And 20, Mashma Shem Ava B'Mezid Ein L'Hokah B'Zeh Afshas HaTzorich V'chein Godas Reb Shem Zalman Orach Omna L'Gabi Odom She'ein Hashem Torah Mitzvahs. For example, he's got a crazy case. A guy, let's say, he knitted himself a jumper. She'orag Beged B'Shabbos B'Mezid, and he did it on Shabbos, and then he became frum. V'chaz B'Tshuva, Kos B'Shad Tshuva Sheva Levi, She'mut Lo Yatza Lil B'Shas HaBeged, She'mishum Tzakonos HaShovim Nechshav Adov K'Makom HaTzorich, V'yesh L'Hokah B'Zeh, etc., etc. Right? So interesting questions that come up.
What about the Sephardim?
How did they pass it?
So they pass him out the Mechaba.
Yeah, they can't.
Yeah. So the Mechaba, it will be more straight. But it's a big chiluk. And that gun is a very useful. Those few lines are very useful to know because these things could be a big nafkamin in halacha. Okay.
Even